Hey guys, so I'm going to do a little bit of a review today, or a how-to rather, on how to pack your exhaust system for a motorcycle. Most exhausts are going to kind of be this way. I've done Graves and Akrapovic, my two brothers, and they kind of all went the same way as far as on how you do it. So here are the basic things that you're going to need to do it. Obviously, you're going to need your repack kit. Which is over there, which is right here. You're going to need your repack kit. The Graves kit actually is a little different than some of them. Some of them come with a wrap. This one's got more of a pillow. They also include a heat shield, which I'm actually going to use, which they say is actually optional. You don't really need to use it. But I'm going to use it anyway because they included it. You're also going to need your alcohol or contact cleaner, and I'll show you why you use that once we're finishing up. You've got the supplied rivets. You're also going to need a rivet gun, which I don't have out here, but you will need a rivet gun, and most of them will come with the different size holes for the rivets, different adapters, and I'll show you that. Some gasket maker, a permanent marker, and then you're also going to need your drill, a non-marring hammer, a punch, some tape, and scissors. And that's basically all you're going to need to it. Oh, and a lot of patience. I've messed them up before. I've definitely done that. So just lots of patience. Make sure you're doing it correctly. So I'm going to get into it here. Show you how to get basically the most exhaust systems apart. Some of them are going to be different, but for the majority, especially for the 09 to basically current R1, even the 15, most of the aftermarket exhaust systems will use this kind of a setup. So I'm going to get this kind of cleaned up, and then I'll bring it back and show you how to get the actual exhaust system apart once it's actually off the bike. So this is basically where you're going to be when you pull the exhaust system off the bike. You're going to have the can off, and what I have already taken off is basically the rivets here and the band, but I'll show you how to get those out here in a second. So like I said, you're going to pull this off of the bike, and you're going to have a nice working area, especially if you're working with carbon cans. Actually, it doesn't really matter what kind of can you're working with, but you want to make sure it's nice and soft so you don't mess up the can itself. So what we need to do is actually pull the end cap off of the canister to be able to get the old packing and the steel core out. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your non-marring hammer, which I've got this one. I think I picked this up from Mill Supplies, which is basically just a tool provider here in town. It's got these plastic end caps that are non-marring, so these are really nice. Then you're going to take a punch. You want to get a punch basically just barely to fit inside of the center of the rivet. And what you're going to do is you're going to take this punch and you're going to hit out the center of that rivet. What you want to do is be able to punch out basically this portion. There's a steel center portion to the rivet when you actually go to rivet these that you pull up on. What we're doing is knocking that out. It makes it a lot easier when we go to drill out the rivet. So I can tell you with this system, the Graves Link, I had to hit it pretty hard, and actually a couple of times. And there were a couple spots that were kind of really hard to get out. In particular, I want to say it was this one on this side. I think it's because of the depth. It's kind of a pain. So I hit as hard as I could. I drilled it out just a little bit, took some material out, and then I hit it again a couple times really hard, and it knocked itself out. So like I said, you're going to hit out the center. You're going to hear it when it goes through, because this thing's going to sit here and all of a sudden it's going to drop down. You'll probably hear them rattle around in that end cap, but they're easy to get out because there's a plug here. So once you've done that, you're going to take your drill with the correct drill bit, and basically the drill bit you're just going to want to be just barely big enough to fit inside of that. Well, just barely big enough so that it doesn't fit inside of the rivet head. I think this is on number 30 drill bit. I think different companies use different size rivets, so you just may want to check. But to err on the safe side, basically you want it to just barely not fit in that rivet hole. Then you should be good to go. So, like I said, once you get done drilling those out, you're basically gonna, like I said, hit all those out and then go through and drill them out. And then there's a steel band that's eventually gonna come off. And you want to be very careful not to bend this in any weird way, because as soon as you do, you distort it, it's not going to fit on the canister again. So actually I have mine sitting over to safe area so I don't step on it, I don't mess it up, anything. And then once you're done, these end caps will sometimes be kind of hard to get off because they use a silicone sealant inside of this, and which we're going to kind of do too at the end. What I did is I took a towel and I put it over the end cap and just kind of lightly hit the end cap to kind of break it loose. Then eventually you should be able to wiggle this thing out. Now, one or two things are going to happen when you do this, when you pull this off. Either the steel core is going to come with the end cap, which typically that doesn't happen because it's still with the packing, or you're basically just going to pull the end cap out just like I did. Once the end cap is out, you look down inside of this thing. I've already removed it all, but there's actually fiberglass packing inside of this, and around that packing you're going to see a steel core. This core is basically on the inside. You can show it easier on this side, but this core will basically wedge into the inside of this end cap like that, and it actually works the same way on the inlet side as well. So you'll have to wiggle it out and it'll come out, and then you'll have all the extra packing inside of there too. So that's how that works. Once all the packing is out, once you pull all the packing out, you basically have a hollow canister like I do here. It may be kind of hard to see, and I'll try to zoom in on it here, but I actually have, you can see the lip of it in here, but there's actually still some silicone inside of the lip right there. So that'll actually have to be cleaned off too. You want to clean off as much of that as you can, because we're actually going to put new silicone in there. So everything's out. Basically our next step is to clean this off the best we can. You can use some contact cleaner like Brake Clean, or some rubbing alcohol too. Basically you want to get off all the rust that may have been picked up on it. And once you do that, you're going to clean off the inside, and then we should be good to go to start working on this side. And on this side, what we're going to do on the steel core is we're going to wrap it in the new packing material. We're going to mark our length and everything else. So I'm going to get this ready to go, and then we will be back. Okay, so we've got our packing pillow. This is the way this one's going to work. And like I was saying, some systems or packing systems are a little different. Some will actually come with like a roll of insulation that you'll have to do is roll around this core. This one's a little different. For whatever reason, this one actually uses a pillow, which is fine. Takes I think a little bit more work than what the other ones do, but I think maybe overall it's a little better. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the steel core as center this way and as center this way as we can on this pillow. We're going to mark the length of it as best we can in the center, up there, and about right there. So obviously this shows this is a little longer than what it needs to be, which is fine because you do want a little overhang a little bit. Then what we're going to do is we're going to mark it left to right, right to left, best we can. It doesn't need to be perfect, so I'm just going to use the edge of my scissors here. I'm going to do one of these on both sides. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, and then kind of just draw a line right down the middle. So when we cut open this pillow, what we're going to want to do is we're going to try to cut down, what we want to do is cut straight down this line. The goal of this is to get the packing out of this area and out of this area, and get out some of the packing in this area so that we can stuff this can tightly or snugly. You don't want it too tight, because you get it too tight, it's going to be impossible to get in and line up right, because this core is going to want to go wherever the majority of the stuffing's at. So you want it tight, but nothing overly tight. And I'll show you that when we get there. So what I'm going to do now is take my knife and I'm going to cut down the center of this pillow. This one cuts open really easy. Then we've got all this stuffing in here. Now, this is insulation, basically, is really all it is. So you're going to want to use gloves. I'm going to man up and not use gloves because I've got my phone over here and everything else that I'm getting messages on. So what I'm going to do is now pull out a ton of packing. I know the canisters are all different for the Graves system, especially the Link systems are all different. And this is a universal packing system, so they give you a ton of packing material, more than what you're ever going to need. But you can see how I'm pulling that packing material basically up to this line, maybe just a little bit away, and then I'm going to get basically a big ball of it out of it on both sides. About like that, and then I'm going to pull it straight up. Get as much packing out of this as I can. Since I've already done one side, I basically know how much packing material needs to come out. For your situation, though, if this is the first time you've ever done it, or anything else, you're going to want to take your time, for sure. So I got a big old bloom of packing material here, and I know that this isn't even going to be enough. But what I'm going to do is take little chunks of it, and what I like to do is kind of just push it aside and kind of twirl it a little bit so you get like a good cutting point. Then I take my scissors and just cut it out, just like that. Put it somewhere where you won't make a mess, and do the same thing basically all the way around. Try not to cut your fingers off. And it's basically this process for a while. Pulling it out, twisting it up a little bit. Just like that. Give it one hell of a haircut, I guess. Now, while I'm sitting here thinking about it, I should tell you why I'm doing this. The problem with I guess the one caveat to having carbon canisters is that once you burn through the packaging, you start burning through the canister. And once you start burning through the canister, it starts turning yellow, different colors, maybe in like a reddish kind of a color. So to prevent that from happening, you need to repack these. And actually, Graves recommends every like 3,000 to 5,000 miles. If you're not racing the bike or running any type of race fuel. If you're running like any type of high octane fuel and you're running a real shitty tune, they kind of recommend doing it like every couple of races. They say that they do their race canisters every few races. It also helps with the integrity of the exhaust system. I mean, your exhaust system is tuned for a specific flow. And once you lose that flow, your tune becomes less optimal. So doing this will help ensure that that doesn't happen. So as you see, I've got probably one more big bundle here to cut off. Also, if you've got like stainless steel canisters or titanium canisters or anything else, those still need to be repacked too. Maybe not as often because you don't have the real risk of burning through the canister, but you still have the risk of or the exhaust note. You're basically losing the exhaust note. It starts to sound like crap. So another way you can really tell when you're starting to like lose your packing is knocking on it. If it sounds real hollow, you may want to start looking at the packing and repacking them. Another thing to notice too is that the cans are getting real hot, or even the exhaust note changing a ton. If it sounds like real loud and raspy and starts sounding like shit, that's another good indicator that, hey, you may want to start looking at repacking these things. So I think I'm getting close. I'm still going to take out a little more material, even though I took out a ton. And the reason I'm taking out just a little bit more is because, like I said, I've already done the one, and I think I know where it needs to be. So I'm going to cut it about right here. Should do. Okay. So what we're going to do is kind of test wrap this. So you can see where I've got that line. So I'm basically going to roll this pillow over to that line and kind of tape it so that I know my length is right. Having a little hangover is okay because you can see with this end cap, this steel core gets pushed into it. So if we had it flush, the packing would end probably right about there. So we have a little bit of hangover, that's okay because it can press up against this end cap and it actually works the same way inside of the canister. So I'm going to take this side, roll it over a little bit, and then I'm going to take my painter's tape, which is what I use. I don't use duct tape or electrical tape or anything else. I use painter's tape, and I'm going to tape it off right about there, right about there. I just put that back far enough. There, so now I know I've got a little bit of hangover, not too much, and it's a lot better. And then I'm going to probably do the same thing on this side too. I'm going to roll it over to about, I don't know, right about there. Should do. So I think I've got, about an inch on both sides, kind of just left. But it definitely helped with the length a lot. And then that'll help even more once actually I go to roll it around the canister. But I need to see what I'm looking like as far as getting it inside of the tube, or inside of the can. So basically take this and see how we're fitting. You're going to try to stuff it in there, and as I can already tell that I still need to have some more come out. But that's basically what you're going to want to do. You don't want it like a super tight fit, but you want it definitely to be snug. So I'm going to pull some more material yet out of this, and then hopefully we should be good to go. Too much. We'll try. Alright, got it folded over basically almost to that little black line. Do the same thing on this side, move my packing, fold it to about right there. Okay, then once I'm done, I'm gonna actually tape up that hole too, but we're gonna see how we're looking here. Oh, world's better. Good enough for me. Take out maybe about, maybe about like that. That should be good. We're going to stuff this back up, shake off all the excess, no little hairs laying around. Then I'm going to tape this hole shut. Just the best you can. Doesn't need to be perfect, and I'll show you why here in a sec. Basically just to keep the packing material inside of the can, or inside of the pillow. Okay. Should take care of it. Then going to roll the pillow the other way so that the packing pillow itself is actually kind of keeping the insulation from getting inside of the canister. So then we're going to roll this thing as evenly as we can, about like that. Then what I try to do is I try to make sure the back end of this canister or of the steel core is actually flush as I can. And the front end we can actually work on packing that down. So the reason being is because we have to line it up with the inside pipe, which can be a little difficult sometimes. So what I'm going to do is you want to have the packing, the core as centered in that packing as you can, which is going to be about like that. So you want that as centered in that packing material as you can. And then you're going to take your painter's tape again and tape it up so that it's wound around it. Like that. I'm going to use probably 3 different pieces. If I had someone helping me, what I would do is probably just I would want continuous staying all the way around, but these little strips will be fine. And then you can see how I'm lining up as far as the packing being inside of the canister. This end, like I said, we're going to have to push down a little bit once we get it inside of the can, but should be good to go there. Probably put one more little piece of tape on the end so that it keeps it from flaring out when I go to stuff it in. Not like that. Perfect. Liking it. Then I'm going to take our heat shield that isn't always supplied, but it is in this one. I'm going to wrap that around the packing that I just did. This will have to be trimmed too, lengthwise, but that's okay. It's pretty easy to do. Gonna lay this thing out, kind of look at where they cut theirs. Looks like they're cutting it. I guess it's really not gonna matter on this one. Some of them are stitched, but so this I'm gonna lay it like this, and I'm gonna cut it where I need to be able to get it to fit around this thing. So we'll do about like right. It doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of close. A couple inches behind or in front of, or actually behind would be better than in front of. Makes it easier to get it inside of the can. And you're all said and done. Okay, there's that. And this is going to get wound up inside of the heat shield. About like dead center as you can. And then we're going to tape this as well. So we'll grab my tape. And sometimes it's easier to put a piece of tape here, kind of hold it down on the inside, and then wrap it around the outside as well. Don't be afraid to use tape, it's not going to hurt anything. Just holds everything in place. And then wrap this bitch. We're going to wrap it around like that and then put another piece of tape right there so we have our, basically our packed core. Right there. Okay, another piece here, nice and tight, looks good. I also like to put pieces around the heat shield pretty close to the end to keep this thing from slipping when I push it in. It kind of just helps hold everything in place. So I try to put it on the end, to overlap it with the packing pillow a little bit. And you got your repacked core. Now, fun part is actually sticking this inside of this correctly. So on my core, the two ends are just a little bit different. One end flares out, and that is this end. So this end's going to go in first. And then we're going to basically take this end and push it and kind of crunch it in. Basically, you want to try to tuck it into the canister. And like I said, you don't want a real tight fit, but you want something, I don't know, snug, I guess is a good way to put it. Because if you go too tight, you can actually create problems with the tone and everything else. So just snug will do. Doesn't have to be, don't want it too loose, don't want it too tight. Okay, so I found my paint stick. This comes in real handy. Like I said, when you're actually pushing the new packing material in, you can take this paint stick and kind of like push it down to help push down the material and get it in evenly. Like you should just be able to walk this thing around, kind of tucking it in. So that's our goal, is we're going to work this entire thing in. Shouldn't be too hard to do. Okay, so after some hard work, like I said, it takes a lot of patience, but after some work, it wasn't too bad. I got the center in. I'll take my flashlight here so you guys can see it better, because my lighting right now is horrible. But you can kind of see, if I can get it in my camera correctly, the packing material in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to clean up this leftover silicone, and then we're going to work on getting the end cap on. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the old silicone actually cut out around here. We're cleaning up with some contact cleaner, and then we're going to slide our end cap on. Okay, so now I've got the blue RTB, I just used blue gasket maker, on the inside lip, basically where this end cap's going to slide on. It helps slide it on, and also helps seal it up a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, actually I need to move some of this over because I missed a spot. Okay, so make sure all the RTB is actually off your finger so you don't get it on the can. But I'm actually going to slide on this end cap. And while you're doing it, you're going to need to look down it to make sure you're lining up the inside pipe correctly. And then this thing is basically just going to wiggle on. Be kind of tight, just take your time, don't crack the carbon fiber, and just wiggle it on like that. And then make sure you're checking, looking down, and making sure that the tube is properly lined up. And then I also have got this ghetto 45-degree mirror that I actually look down the tube to make sure all the packing is actually all the way down the core and didn't bunch up in one spot. So now we got this lid on. All we have to do is get our ring on and rivet. So I'm going to set this down, and as you can see, we're sounding really good all the way around this thing. I'm going to set this down, grab that ring, grab the rivets, and then we're going to head rivet and finish. Okay, so I've got my band. I'm going to wrap this around the can in the same orientation that it came off. Just try to keep in mind where you pulled this thing off of and how it went. Which mine basically sat around it about like that, all the way around it. So now I'm going to set the rivets in. My camera's going to die soon, so if this video cuts short, don't be upset. Basically from here it's riveting, but I'm going to do this as quickly as I can. So what we're going to do is wrap this band around in the right orientation. And then I'm going to put one rivet in, just set it in, make sure you get it lined up with the hole correctly. Right, like that. Then set it in there like that, so that it's at least started. And I'm going to do that till all the way around to make sure all the holes line up correctly before I start riveting. A little bit of my towel caught up in it. That's great. Pull that out. get some rivets in. Okay, they all fit fine. So here, we're going to take our rivet gun, and basically most rivet guns will come with a couple different selectors as far as size goes. What we're going to do is try to find the one that's closest to it, the tightest fit. That's the one I have in it now, is the perfect fit, but you see that one's too tight, that one's way too tight, so this is the one we need. So to rivet, what we're going to do is we're going to take our riveter, and I'm going to start on that first joint. This is usually the toughest one. What you're going to do is you're going to slide this into the rivet gun, and then you're going to start working the handle a little bit, making sure you're pressing down tight. I'm going to basically pull these ones out because they don't need to be in, because I know that it lines up. I'll keep these two in because those are fine. And then what we're going to do is go into this and start to rivet. Push down tight against it. I've got it pressed up really tight here. And then what we're going to do is just squeeze the handle a little bit. You can start to feel the tension. Work the handle just a little bit. Bring it out. Work it a little bit more. Bring it out. It's going to get tough to squeeze at one point, but that's okay. Just keep squeezing until it literally breaks. It's going to get scary. That's okay. There. That rivet's done. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that all the way around this can. Make sure all the holes line up still. We're going to go all the way around the can doing that same process. Okay, sorry, my camera ended up dying, but now you kind of have an idea of how it's done. I've got the cans back on the bike. I've got everything riveted the way it should be. So go ahead and start it up and see how it sounds. Make sure I don't have any leaks. You want to feel around your rivets, make sure everything's good to go. Everything sounds really good, looks good, don't feel any leaks. Should have did a before video. You're still going to have, I don't know if you can see some of the smoke coming out of the pipe. You're going to get some of that because that's some of the packing kind of just burning off, which is fine. Yeah, I should have did a before video. They sound tons better. They're not as raspy. They just got that new tone to them again, which is good. They'll break in a little bit in the first couple hundred miles, and then they'll sound like they should, and should be good to go. So if you have any questions in this process, let me know. But like I said, it's fairly simple. There's not a whole lot to it. It's just taking the cans off, drilling out the rivets, and pulling the old stuff out, putting new stuff in, and then putting it all back together. So yeah, turned out really good. Straps, you can see, look really nice. Actually, you can even really tell that I even took them off, to be honest with you. They look, you know, almost like they were perfect. So yeah, any questions, let me know. Hopefully this helps some of you guys out that have got some cans that are kind of old and you're nervous about repacking them or anything else. Hopefully this gets you taken care of. Any questions, let me know, guys. Thank you.